Top 10 most expensive whiskies in the world. Welcome to Law, the world's largest community of luxury and fine living. Be sure to watch all the way to the end. If you are new to the channel, then hit the subscribe button below from our life-changing content. The word whiskey actually derives from an ancient Gaelic word that means living water and dates back to the 15th century. Whiskey is one of the oldest and most beloved alcoholic beverages in the world. Today, whiskey is enjoyed all over the world as fine liquor and is saved for special occasions. Historically, raw forms of whiskey were created and used in medicine to sterilize wounds and sedate patients. The majority of the best whiskey is known as Scotch whiskey, and in order for the whiskey to consider Scotch, it must have been brewed in Scotland. In 2017, the US imported about $1 billion worth of Scotch whisky, and the liqueur easily ranked as most valuable food or beverage for the British economy, with an annual revenue contribution of around $5 billion. Whiskey sales alone account for about a quarter of all food and beverage sales, so it comes as no surprise. So here are some top 10 most expensive whiskies in the world. Number 10. Balvenie, a 50-year single malt Scotch whisky sold for $50,000. A single malt whisky is one that is distilled once from a mash of a single type of grain. A 50-year single malt is one that was left in an oak cask after distilling for 50 years. This helps to refine the taste and gives it an unmistakably rich dark color. The bulb any 50-year single malt is particularly special because each barrel has followed a secret family recipe for centuries. But wait, there is more. The price tag becomes so high because this particular type of Balvenie whiskey was made in a single barrel. The barrel was able to fill about 88 bottles in total. So, to see one of these are rare in itself tasting it. However, it's reserved for those who are willing to pay an outrageous amount per sip. Number 9. Down Laura Medicine, sold for 58,000 US dollars. The Down Laura 62 was made from a fusion for four separate types of single malt whiskey back in 1942. 12 bottles of blend were produced in total, and each one was hand blown by skilled artisan way up in Scottish Highlands. Each bottle has a different shape and is named to commemorate a prominent personality from Dalmor, the most expensive out of all these. 12 bottles were the Dalmor Medicine. It was named after Alexander Madison, who was the owner of the Dalmor estate. This bottle was sold to an anonymous buyer. Legend has it, and the gentleman of fine taste and deep pocket immediately cracked open the bottle and shared it with his friends. What a guy! Number 8. W&J Mutters Balmore, 1850, sold for 68,135 US dollars. This 168 years old single malt is the oldest known bottle of Balmore whiskey that still exists in 2007. It was sold to an anonymous telephone bidder by the Mettiers auctioneers in Glasgow. The incredible price tag was far above what experts were estimating it would be for. The auctions, indeed, the cork itself had fallen into the bottle. Nonetheless, the fact this bottle was given to the William Otter, one of the founders of Balmore Distillery, back in 1851, and had been passed down through the family ever since. Certainly make it special. The unique purchase grabbed a lot of media attention at that time. The certain added to its value. Whoever the anonymous telephone bidder was, chances they are keeping the bottle as priceless collector item rather than getting blindly drunk. Number 7. Macallan really finds as a rare one sold for 75,000 US dollars. Macallan is the third largest distiller of Scotch whisky in the world behind Glenfiddich and Glenlivet. However, it is re-owned as the number one quality. Distilled in the famous Scotch Highland of spices, they have various classic types of whiskies. One of their most expensive and famous blend is the 1926 collection, aged in charred white oak for 60 years. Batch was finally bottled in 1968 in a partial style that would cause offense to too many today's liberal media. The fine and rare 1926 Macallan was said to be reserved for a real businessman. It was so dry and concentrated, no water was used in the distillation process at all. There were 40 bottles in total, and it's not certain how many remaining under one today. The last known bottle to be sold was the South Korean businessman back in 2005. He paid a whopping 75,000 US dollars for it. However, there has been no word about it. Either he drunk or preserved. Number 6. Glenfish Janet, Sid Robert. Reserved 1955, sold for 94,000 US. Janet Sid Robert was a truly incredible woman. She was the last living granddaughter of William Grant, who began the Glenfish Distillery back in 1886. She was one of the first ladies to ever study at the universities of Glasgow and Edinburgh, where she majored law. She practiced as a lawyer for many years and helped to drive an equality between genders that our society still strives for today. In August 2011, she celebrated her birthday, 110th birthday, making her the oldest woman in recorded Scottish history to commemorate this special lady and her illustrious life. Glenfish, named a batch of 1955, reserved after her. 11 bottles were produced in total, 3 of which were sold at auction, while the whereabouts of other remaining unknown. The accumulated sales price of these 3 were in the region of $260,000, and all of the money was donated to charities as Jane Shedrobot had requested. The most expensive bottles were sold at an auction in New York for 94,000 US dollars. Shortly after this auction, Jane had passed away. As a result, all 11 of these bottles' values have increased vastly. None have ever resurfaced on the market, but if they do, they may well break the record and come in at number 1 on this list in the future. So, Alexas, we are at the halfway point. If you have been taking a sip of this each time you heard the word whiskey, then you're probably a little tipsy by night now. In any case, don't forget to check out some other top 10, 15 lists like our list 15 jobs that can make you a millionaire. Particularly interesting and surprising, so why don't you check it out? Alright, let's get back to it. Number 5. George Washington Distilleries, straight rye whiskey, sold for 100,000 US dollars. Could this be the only American whiskey on the list? Surely not. Maybe let's not ruin the surprise. We can tell you that it's definitely the only rye whiskey on this list. In any case, this whiskey is particularly special as the main name might imply, because George Washington himself devised the recipe for it over 200 years ago. This extremely special batch was distilled in 2003 and aged in the finest handcraft American oak cask for 2 years. The very first bottle to be sealed was dubbed and labeled bottle number 1 for the first time in history. George Washington's recipe was available for retail. It was sold at auction, and after fearless competitive bidding war, Mervyn Shekin, a publisher from New Haven, Connecticut, bought it for 100,000 US dollars. Being bought a cigar, whiskey aficionados were guessing he didn't save the bottle as a collector items. More likely, he found the perfect environment to sit down with a glass in one hand and an extremely expensive cigar, other sophisticated personified. Number 4. Its rare collection sold for $120,000. 61 bottles of this extremely special Glenfish single malt were made in a distill in 1973. It was aged for 64 years before being bottled in 2001. This made the oldest single malt on the market. Glenfish sold 60 bottles for an original price for 10,000 US dollars, each whistle holding on the first bottle. From the batch, many of those original 60 were drunk and enjoyed by their buyers, while others have appeared in auction ever since in 2004. One of the last known bottles was sold for 72,000 US dollars and drunk almost immediately. This left Glenfiddich with the last known bottle in 2005. The bottle was sold to Sky Connection for an undisclosed fee. The duty-free company immediately announced it would be on sale at the Chet Lok Kuk Airport in Hong Kong. It has since been sold for an incredible $120,000. So for those wondering what they could invest their hard-earned cash in a bottle of rare whiskey, certainly isn't a bad shot. Within 6 years, the specific batch increased in the value of 1200%.
Number 3. Nuns Island Distillery Pure Pot Still Whiskey sold for $143,000. The second oldest whiskey on this list and the only one coming from the distillery no longer in operation. This is more of a historical artifact than the beverage. This whiskey is distilled and produced in Galway by H.S. Piercy's Nun Island Distillery. The distillery shut down in 1908, and this was one of the last bottles ever produced. There is an incredible note to the buyer. It warns of how many people have been filling Piercy whiskey bottles with inferior brand and trying to sell them off for profit. Piercy says that he will personally pay anyone £100 if they give information that successfully leads to prosecution of the fraudster. The bottle itself was brought to the attention of an auctioneer in Galway back in 2005. An old lady bought it wrapped in a plastic bag and asked if it might be worth something. She had no idea. She was sitting on an absolute gold mine. The bottle ended up making her 143,000 US dollars on a chair. Number 2. Trinity Oz sold for $164,000. The kind of product that brings shivers down the spine of anyone that knows anything about quality distillations. This blend contains whiskey distilled in 1868, 1878, 1926 and 1939. The blend was then left to age for 64 years. The last 2 years were spent in handcrafted American white oak cask, which has been specially prepared by the master distiller Richard Patterson. The wood was first soaked in another extremely rare Delmore whiskey. Then the cask was filled with two of the finest sherries ever produced, the Methuselah Oslo and Pedro Jimenez. After the sherries were removed, this incredible whiskey was poured in for the last 2 years of slumber in such a way. A unique and delightful taste was developed. 3 bottles were produced in total each, one handmade and mouth blown from the finest molten crystal and adorned with silver. This gives a decenter and awe-inspiring presentation. The first 2 bottles have already been sold. The last one is still available at the Whiskey Exchange. You can find it online and register yourself as a potential buyer. Good luck! Number 1. Macallan, 64 years, Liqueur, 460,000 US dollars. This is the oldest single malt whiskey that Macallan has ever sold. It was bottled in an incredible honor of Liqueur Purdue. The collaboration came as a part of global fundraising tour for a charity that is simply called Water. This charity provides clean and safe drinking water to some of the most vulnerable people on the planet. And its incredible rare and special content had been on tours around several cities including London and Paris. Before coming to auction, the Sotheby's in New York in 2010, a lively bid war ensued. In the end, an anonymous philanthropist broke the bank, gasp of all what they watched by bidding. An incredible 460,000 US dollars. The owner still has the bottle stashed away and has no intention of drinking it handled. That's it. What an incredible list. 1 American whiskey and 1 Irish and 8 Scottish. And now, question posed to you, our esteemed and valued viewers. If you had the money, would you invest and collect bottles of rare whiskey or buy them to enjoy? Let us know in the comment. Thank you for spending some time with us, Laws. Make sure to subscribe so you never miss a video if you want more. We handpick these videos you might enjoy and head over to your channel for the best fine living content on the planet.